This is a robot called Amica that was the star of my show at Abundance 360 last year. Let's take a look at her. So Amica is an extraordinary robot showing a wide range of emotions. She's driven by GPT-3 when needed to, but you can see a direction of where things are going. And as I mentioned before I was disconnected, the other announcement that was a major announcement this year came from Tesla Bot. Let's take a listen to Elon here.
Optimus Production Unit 1, which is the ability to move all the fingers independently, to have the thumb have 2 degrees of freedom, so it has opposable thumbs, and both left and right hand, so it's able to operate tools and do useful things. Our goal is to make a useful humanoid robot as quickly as possible. Optimus is designed to be an extremely capable robot, but made in very high volume, probably ultimately millions of units, and it is expected to cost much less than a car. I would say probably less than $20,000 would be my guess. This means a future of abundance, a future where there is no poverty, where you can have whatever you want in terms of products and services. It really is a fundamental transformation of civilization as we know it.
So I find that fascinating. If in fact he's correct in being able to do that for $20,000, you can imagine the marketplace for those robots is much bigger than the marketplace for a car. An area that I focus on a lot is the future of the abundance of health. It's an area that I'm very passionate about, and one, I think there's no greater gift you can give anybody than extra years of a healthy life. We're seeing amazing transformation going on today. It was originally the ability to sequence your genome, all 3.2 billion letters of your life, cost about $3 billion. Today, it's $200. It took previously years. Today, it can be done in 7 hours. And the ability to understand your genome is the ability to understand what's wrong and to a large degree how to fix it. One of the other technologies coming online is CRISPR, gene editing. This is won the Nobel Prize in 2020, 2 amazing women. And your ability to go into your genome, the 3.2 billion letters from your mother and your father, and if there is a genetic problem, like in this case, this particular amyloidosis that kills 500,000 people a year, you can go into your liver and edit the genome and not treat the disease, to cure the disease. It's extraordinary in that regard. We're seeing the ability to cure congenital blindness, to cure thalassemia and sickle cell anemia. This is a revolution in being able to cure genetic diseases across the board. Another biotech revolution occurring right now is the ability to create a backup set of organs for everybody. So this is a company that is able to edit the genome of pigs. It turns out that pigs have the same size heart, liver, lung as humans do. And so you're able to go into these pigs, edit the genome of the pigs to have the same surface cell antigens, and then grow a pig and being able to transplant that heart or liver or lungs or kidneys into the human recipient. This is a gentleman, a dear friend of mine by the name of Dean Kamen, who is built a company called ARMI, the Advanced Regenerative Manufacturing Institute. And ARMI has built a incredible, call it a 3D printer. In one end goes a few induced pluripotent stem cells that then are grown and differentiated. Now at the other end comes an organ 2 months, 3 months later. So we're really talking about a future of a abundance of organs if you need a heart or lung or liver transplant. Is it here today? It's just beginning. Will we see this in the next 5 to 10 years? Absolutely. But I think a lot of the excitement in the field of health is around the idea of understanding why we age and maybe why we don't have to. So how do we slow down, stop, and even reverse the aging process in the body? This is work done by Dr. Belmonte at Salk in San Diego, who's been able to reverse aging in elderly mice. We're seeing this work now going into dogs and eventually into humans. This is what's going on in human skin, not on the human, but in the dish, in the lab. But we're seeing the ability to reverse aging in the lab by 30 years or more. So again, pretty extraordinary work.
It is quite possible.
Let me take a second and set this up. Every year, I take a group of about 40 of my Abundance 360 members on a special platinum trip. And on one year, we go to the West Coast of the US, San Francisco and San Diego. On the other year, we go to Boston, Cambridge, New York, New Jersey, and we visit the top stem cell scientists, genetic scientists, the top entrepreneurs. And George Church and David Sinclair, who you'll see in this video, are who we're going to go be visiting this coming August and September. But listen to what they have to say. And how do you think about this for your personal life, for your family, for your business? How is it going to affect the way you see the world? Listen carefully.
It is quite possible that some of the people alive today will see no upper limit.
Imagine having a treatment, perhaps a viral delivery of these 3 genes when you're 45. Everything's good, you reach 50, biologically you can measure that, and then you get a course of doxycycline. 3 weeks later, many, if not all, parts of your body are rejuvenated, and then you reset the clock.
And you reset the clock. How would you like that? I mean, a lot of the work that I'm working on right now, most of my companies I'm starting, I have a $500 million investment fund that I invest a lot, 2/3 of it into this area. The economic impact is massive. This was a study done at Harvard, Oxford, and London School of Business that said if we can slow the aging process and increase life expectancy by just 1 year globally, it's worth $38 trillion to the global economy. So let me wrap here, and we'll go to Q&A by saying, I think, a few important statements that the world's biggest problems are the world's biggest business opportunities. This is what I'm in the boardroom of companies saying, if you can identify a great, big, juicy problem, whether it's energy, food, water, healthcare, shelter, it is the biggest business opportunities on the planet. And that the best way to predict the future is to create it yourself. If you would like a copy of these slides, if you just click on that, I put out a weekly tech blog every week, actually twice a week, on where these technologies are going. And I'm just completing now a series of the top 20 meta trends for the decade ahead. What are the top 20 meta trends that will shape every country, every industry? And again, that link will allow you to get access to the meta trends and to my tech blog. And I welcome you. I would love to get a connection and spend more time with all of you. All right, Juan Carlos, a pleasure. I'd love to do our Q&A now.
Vamos a brindarle un aplauso al doctor Diamandis, por favor, para demostrarles lo agradecido que estamos con todo lo que ha compartido, sobre todo esta última información tan valiosa de los últimos momentos tan importantes y los avances tecnológicos. Y ahora sí llega el momento de la conversación. estará Juan Carlos Zapata, director ejecutivo de Fundesa, quien va a realizar algunas preguntas, aproximadamente unos 15 minutos para poder dialogar con el doctor Diamandis. Juan Carlos, adelante, te escuchamos y que comiencen las preguntas entonces. Bienvenido.
Gracias, Ricardo. Buenas tardes a todos. Peter, thank you very much for this journey. I think that the presentation and all what you have said has been very important for us, especially you are being watched in 3 countries at the same time, Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras. Almost 2,000 people, and also people that are streaming this online. So thank you very much for the presentation and the opportunity. I have a couple of questions. When we talk about different challenges for countries like Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, and other developing countries, there are always institutional challenges that undermine different efforts, specifically towards infrastructure, topics like education, health, technical training. What do you recommend to different leaders, specifically from the private sector? We have a lot from the private sector today, to engage more towards institutional strengthening in our countries.
So, again, I think really the question in these 3 nations is fundamentally, what will the nation be focused on and known for?
What is the most, when I am working with heads of companies, industries, and even nations, one of the things I talk about is what is your massive transformative purpose? What is the brand that the nation wants to have? Where do you want to play the best in? And it's not doing everything for everyone. It's when I think of Guatemala, when I think of El Salvador, when I think of a nation, what is it that I think is the most, what is that nation going to be the best at and known for around the world? And how do I support the educational system? How do I support the incentive programs? How do I support the industrial base to be able to further those core areas? We're living in a global economy where you can buy anything you want from almost anywhere. And so there's a flattening of the curve in that regard. But for any company or any country, being clear about this is who we are, this is what we're the best at, and this is where we're going to outcompete everybody is such a critical part of the equation. Now, it's one of the advantages that a relatively small nation has is the ability to establish a regulatory advantage over other countries. And I'll give a simple example in saying we're going to be the country that is the most advanced in drones. And the government is going to pass the laws allowing for drone flights to occur any place. We're going to make investments in drone companies. We're going to buy drone services, and we're going to become the centerpiece. So the ability to say, this is the place that's the most important for us, and we're going to bring regulatory, financial incentives, educational incentives, and so forth. But you can't do it every place. It's like, what is the nation need to be the best known in? And then it's about focus in that regard. Hopefully that is meaningful.
And that's very important because, for instance, in countries like Guatemala, we have focused on manufacturing, but also call centers, BPOs, and also electronics and other areas such as pharmaceuticals. So I think it's very important what you're saying to try to incentivize those sectors. It's also true for El Salvador and Honduras. They're also focusing a lot on megatrends and how to focus on innovation. So I think that's very important. And do you think, is there any specific initiative or innovation that you have seen in Singularity University or efforts that you work on that would help countries in Central America to accelerate these innovations and to the communication systems? We were just talking about the program. what do you think would be specific for the 3 countries in Central America to focus on what you're already doing?
So again, it really is about focus, and so the first decision is what is the area that we're going to focus in on, and then it's a matter of bringing in either identifying the individuals in the country or bringing people there. There was a program years ago in Chile called Startup Chile, where they were offering up a $50,000 incentive to any entrepreneur that would move down there and would bring their company or company ideas. And ultimately, it's either educating the existing base of individuals or bringing people to get a critical mass, because its intellect is key, and then married with the regulatory support and capital. One of the things that I've done, I run an organization called the X Prize Foundation, and we do large-scale global competitions. We have run competitions around the world where, let me give an example. We ran one competition in Greece for ocean mapping, and we asked teams around the world to build technology that could map the ocean floor off the coast of Greece at 4,000 meters depth. And we offered up, I forget how much, it was a $5 million competition or thereabouts. And then we had teams, hundreds of teams building technology to meet that goal. So one approach to driving innovation is, if you're clear about what you want to achieve and can create a very clear finish line, you can launch a global incentive competition and invite innovators around the world to come to you to demonstrate how they would solve that problem. So we've launched about $300 million in X prizes to date, and another $300 million will be launched over the next few years. So I think that's an important one. The other side of innovation I would just mention is it's a tough one, that a lot of times real innovation, real breakthroughs do not occur within the established companies or the existing leadership. It happens from the outside. Example is in the space business, which I know very well. The industrial military complex in the U.S., companies like Boeing and Lockheed and Northrop Grumman, they were not the ones who created the breakthroughs in launch vehicles. It was Elon and Jeff Bezos, who were completely outside the industry. So one of the questions becomes, how do you innovate at the edge? If you're a company that wants breakthrough innovation, a lot of times doing that inside the company is very difficult, because there's an immune system that stops the breakthroughs, the crazy ideas from occurring. It has to occur on the edge, on the outside. Maybe it occurs in the universities. Maybe it occurs in separate projects. When Steve Jobs created the Macintosh, it was not done inside of Apple. It was done in a separate building miles away from all of the main individuals, because people don't like to see the area that they've known forever get disrupted. And like I said, if the day before something is really a breakthrough, it's a crazy idea, where inside your organizations are you trying crazy ideas? Otherwise, you're stuck in incremental progress, not disruptive progress.
That's a very important message, specifically when you talk about how do you bring abundance mentality to a whole country. So that's very important. Now, in Central America, we have different accelerator programs to spur innovation and growth, focus on small and medium-sized enterprise in Guatemala, for example. We have been working with the Scale-Up program with the University of Labs, and focused on productivity and also trying to increase clients and income, especially to increase cash flow. What opportunities or innovations in technology would you recommend the entrepreneurial ecosystem in our region, specifically focused on SMEs? Because one of the largest challenges of all three countries is how to generate more employment, specifically to not have so much migrants towards the US, which makes it something that is important for both regions. So if you could focus on SMEs, what would your recommendation be?
Well, I think we're living on a planet that's changed in the last 2 years, where there's a large effort for onshoring supply chain, but a full acceptance of offshoring talent. And of course, this is where call centers and technology centers can provide services. I mean, the cost of engineering in the US is extremely high. And so a lot of the engineers that I hire are from South America, Central America, used to be Ukraine, now Poland, and Philippines. And so one of the questions is, can there be the creation of talent pools that are fully capable of delivering the types of services that are desired, but delivered over Zoom, over Slack, over these sort of the teleemployment capabilities that's now fully accepted, because so many of my employees, I don't know where they live. I just know I see them on Zoom or I see them on email, and that's totally fine. I mean, the realization is we're going to see AI playing a critical role, and I think every SME needs to be thinking about this. I teach something, Juan Carlos, that I talk about, that every company needs to think about how do they digitize, dematerialize, demonetize, and democratize their products and services. Because ultimately somebody is going to be trying to do that. Kodak, which made all the film and the cameras, they developed the first digital cameras, but they failed to take advantage of it. And then you saw Instagram and many others take advantage. But when photography was digitized, it dematerialized the camera, got rid of the camera, and then it demonetized it. It was effectively free and democratized it around the world. And so the challenge is, how do you think about doing that for your own products and services? Your marketplace goes beyond local to global when it's digital. And I think that's just a fundamental question that every CEO needs to be asking.
Thank you. And just for lack of time, I would just like to ask one last question.
Yeah, please.
You walked us through the impact of technology in many areas: food, transport, energy. How about the future of money itself? We have a question from El Salvador on digitization of currencies, fintech, cryptocurrencies. Do you have any impression on that attempt to get a head start in that area in El Salvador? What would you?
Sure. So listen, I'm a huge believer in Bitcoin and a huge fan of the leadership that El Salvador demonstrated in its adoption there. I think it's still early days, but I think the ability to have digital currencies that accelerate the